Hello, everybody. My name is Justin. I lead our Workday Financials and Adaptive Delivery practice here at Armanino. I've been here 3.5 years, but this is year 11 for me now in the Workday ecosystem. I think this is year 8 for me as an attendee of Workday Rising, dating all the way back to 2016. So a lot has changed since then.
And hey, everybody, Michael Pacifico. I'm a solution architect in our AI analytics and automation team. So work with customers to solve challenges and problems across all platforms using AI tools and components primarily. Nice to be here today.
Thanks. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today, a couple of things. We're going to cover what Workday has announced at Rising around the general topic of AI. And they've announced quite a bit, as I'm sure most have seen. So we'll try to make sense a little bit about what they've announced, what it means, what some of the impacts are, and we'll see some real examples of you might be able to apply this broadly. And then we'll look at a bit of a roadmap, right? This is a bit of a journey. We're still very early on in the overall AI implementation phase. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the different ways that we maybe can help as a result of that roadmap. All right. So as we all know, AI has taken center stage. It's probably included in every single conversation that we are all having. And Workday Rising was no different. The branding still remains consistent around this Workday Illuminate, but the definition of what Illuminate is or what it means has expanded pretty significantly. And we'll talk a little bit about what that ecosystem now looks like. But it's no longer just about agents or bots that help you questions and summarize data more quickly or more efficiently. It's about taking that data and insight and actually turning it into action and maybe helping us start to perform some of the more monotonous, lower level data entry type of tasks. The big theme though, and we'll sprinkle this through as we talk about what's been announced. AI is not here to replace us or everyone or everything. It is there to enhance. And I think this is probably the what scares people the most, what is off time, the hardest to really comprehend or understand how it impacts our day to day. But we're going to walk through some examples where we can hopefully help kind of shine some light on where we can get a little bit of time back in our day by leveraging some of these AI agent type of initiatives. All right. So this is the new world of the AI agent platform that Workday has announced. And so I'm going to talk about a couple of things because there's a couple of very significant announcements or changes that Workday has made and have announced that I would consider pretty groundbreaking for the Workday customers. The big one I'll start with is for the first time ever, they've really opened up the platform. Mentioned I've been doing this a pretty long time now. It has historically been a very closed ecosystem, right? Where Workday has controlled and really not allowed a lot of extensibility into their product. This year, that is all changing. Okay. But they're not giving up full control, of course, either. So there's a bit of a balance. So if I kind of walk through some things that were announced and try to help articulate what they mean to you or to us. The first thing is Workday themselves are investing heavily in developing their own agents. Okay, so these are agents that Workday is building, more or less a part of your subscription, and Workday is developing those within the Workday product. New announcement, they announced their acquisition of Flowise, which is now going to become a part of, whether it's a customer or a partner of Workday, within Workday, on Workday, to build your own custom AI agents. Okay, so brand new, again, step one in opening up the ecosystem. The third announcement they made was extending the platform out to partner agents. So if you think about Salesforce, Microsoft, Google, right? All of these other platforms that allow you to also build AI agents and manage AI agents, allowing you to kind of extend out to those and get a similar Workday experience as a result of that. And we'll see a little bit of what that might look like. The other thing that they've announced that's pretty significant, I think this is something that even myself, as they announced, they didn't fully appreciate or understand until recently, and it's this ASOR, Agent System of Record. And really what this is, if you think about it, it's kind of it's an interesting thing to think about, but in a world where we have more agents, right, these autonomous bots building or performing actions on our behalf, we really need a place to manage them. No different than we manage our people. Right. And so this is about, who are these bots? What's their identity? What role do they play? What access do they have? Whether it's to read information or to maybe transact. What oversight do they have? Who's providing the oversight, right? We're talking about AI not as replacing our jobs, but enhancing, right? And so we need to be able to govern these things as well. And so it's a very interesting entry into the market because Workday also is allowing you to manage your agents all within Workday. Okay, and so this is really about giving you now a choice, right? You can choose to manage these things in Workday. If you are a Microsoft shop, for example, you can choose to manage them there, but you get the option really for the first time on the Workday platform. Okay. On top of all of that, what we see here at the bottom here is a couple of things. The idea here that Workday is trying to get across is they're trying to make it easy to understand and easy to use. They're trying to allow you to adopt and gain some of that transparency and insight and optimization. But they're not doing it blindly. This is done with governance. It's done with compliance. It's done with visibility. It's done with control. Okay, so these aren't these mysterious things out there doing things on our behalf. These are agents. You're really thinking about them no different than they are workers, right? They have a job, they have a role, and they're able to perform tasks. And this gives us a way to kind of govern and control those. Okay, so there's a whole lot that is still to come. As we kind of know, Workday Rising is kind of the launching off point for a lot of these announcements. So some of these areas are, a little further along than others, but really for the first time ever, we have an open ecosystem surrounding Workday, and, any Workday customer should be really, really excited about that. Okay. So I talked about Workday's building agents. You're going to have the ability to build your own agents, and then we also can leverage some agents from different partners. So what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through a couple very tactical examples, some agents that Workday has announced and has started to build, some of which are in early adopter programs. So if you are an early adopter of any of these, I'd love to hear from you. Others are still in the final stages of being developed and will be a part of the next Workday release. But this is a summary of the agents that Workday has announced thus far. And so there's a couple of things of significance here is one, that this is quite a few different agents quite across the platform. So that's both HR, finance, but also adaptive as well. Okay, so product-wise, pretty broad. But the other thing you should notice is these agents aren't necessarily about just highlighting information or summarizing information. These are action type of agents, right? And we're going to go through a couple examples of what action means in this regard, or in some cases, how you can start with a chat or a question and turn it to an action. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I think it's what I really want to highlight here is it feels like we're kind of advancing out of this, help or chat bot type of AI mindset. It's still there, and I think we all probably use it quite a bit, but it's advancing now, and we're advancing into actual tasks, actual transactions. So I'm going to walk through here over the course of the next couple slides, 3 or 4 examples of some agents that Workday has announced. All right, so let's start with the first one here. And the first one here this is a procurement agent that Workday has announced. And what this one's intended to do is this is for the end user. Okay, so this is for somebody, in this example, it's a hotel general manager who's out in the field, who, doesn't know Workday or who the suppliers they use might be or are approved or who has the best price. The point here is they don't need to know that, right? And so what we're seeing here is the purchasing agent saying, you can see in the background of the screenshot here, what can we help you purchase, right? And so what I put in here is, well, I need to order 200 bottles of wine for client gifts. Okay, and so that's what I kind of provided here. And the result that came back was wine from an approved supplier that our company has already contracted with, that has it in stock, and it's highlighting that to me here. Okay, so what's really neat about this, as an end user who might not know where to even start, all I did was say, I just need to order this, right? That was very simple. It's very easy for me to use. And now what this has done is it's told me exactly what supplier it is, who has it in stock. All I have to do is click order, and it's a purchase order for me. Okay, so you think about it. I asked it a question, I click create purchase order, and I go on with my day, and my wine shows up a week later. Okay, so this is a really good example where we start in this kind of natural language idea, which is ask, I need to do something, but I just don't know how to do it. So let me ask, all the way through execution of a transaction. Okay, so very, very cool. Not only asking questions, but taking action. All right, Kate, next example. So the next example is actually from one of Workday's newer acquisitions, Evisort. And what you're seeing here kind of on the right side is you're seeing a contract, a contract that we have with one of our customers that we've loaded in the system. And for anybody who has to deal with these, you will know these are full of legal language. They're many, many pages long. They often take quite a bit of time to even decipher or understand. On top of all of that, we have to take that document and turn it into an actual contract within Workday. We need to set up the contract. We need to set up the revenue schedule, the billing schedule, like things that are very, very important for a company's financials, whether it's recording revenue or looking forward and understanding what revenue still is out there. And so again, a really good example here where Workday's reading the document, whether it's structured in a certain manner or not. I think this is really cool, really important. Doesn't matter. Workday's reading the document, and because we're doing it within Workday, it understands the context. Okay, so it's very contextual. So in this case, it's taking the billing schedule that was in the contract, and it's turning it into a billing schedule in Workday. Same thing with the revenue. So again, another really good example where it's not just taking the data and reading it and summarizing it and highlighting it. It's taking it and it's doing the first step for us, right? So when you think about the amount of time it takes to perform something like this, this is an idea. We are making our lives easier. We are simply reviewing the result versus painfully having to go through and creating the result. Okay, so you can you're starting to see a theme here of this action-based agent. So this third example here, a little bit more HR focused, but this is an organizational plan. Okay, and there's a couple of things going on here. So the scenario is we are creating a new department and we're modeling it out, right? We're trying to get an understanding of, we're creating this new guest experience department. What does that department look like? I need to create some positions, some new ones that we're going to go hire for. I'm going to transfer a couple people in. Well, how I'm doing that is all through the Ask Workday natural language chatbot. I'm saying, hey, look, create this new department. Create these new positions in these locations. Transfer these couple of people in. I'm doing this all typing, telling Workday to perform these tasks for me. Workday's doing it, but it's also giving me real feedback immediately. And that's kind of what you can see here in the middle of the screen. It's telling me what's the cost of that organization? Where am I at this point with the current staff? How many people do I have? What levels of the organization? Am I balanced with manager to employee? And so what this is doing is it's allowing us to iterate without going through all those offline manual cycles, right? If I look at this and I say, wow, that the compensation basis is far too high, let's look to bring in some more junior resources in order to fill this out, right? And using the Ask Workday chat, it's allowing me to take action versus as creating a position in Workday, it's quite a few steps. There's a lot of things you need to do. This allows you to make it easier, user experience, better, quicker outcome that we can kind of churn through. So those examples are examples of agents that Workday has built within the Workday platform. Okay, those are ones that Workday ultimately will publish as a part of the release process and become more widely available for consumption. But we also have this flip side of this agent ecosystem, and this is where we can start to extend into different enterprise platforms. So, for example, what you're seeing here, this is in Microsoft Copilot. Could also be through Microsoft Teams. They're both there. But this allows you to extend Workday but into a space that you're naturally interacting in, right? So for us, for example, it's Microsoft Teams. I can go into there. I can find Workday information faster. Okay, so if I know I'm looking for something, I don't have to take the time to log in, different window, try to remember my password, go try to fumble around in Workday to find it. Let me just ask right here. Okay, tell me what my PTO balance is. Enter, PTO request for this date, things like that. It's also a way to just be reminded of things that maybe you should be doing in Workday. Maybe you have a training that is overdue, right? Getting a notification through Microsoft Teams or through Copilot, reminding you, right? You don't have to log into Workday, but you're in your natural workspace and you're reminded that you need to take action. The last thing is I'll highlight just on this example, as we extend out into, in this case, Microsoft, this enables then the Microsoft Enterprise Suite as well. And so now this is where you're starting to really get the power of enterprise platforms. You've got the power of Workday and its ability around AI, but now you're introducing the Microsoft power and you're kind of bringing those two together, just giving you a more powerful, more dynamic insight into enterprise-wide, your ability to kind of execute tasks. All right, so with that, I'm going to hand this over to Michael to talk a little bit more broadly about the Microsoft partnership, and then get into some really good ways to think about how to organize around AI use cases. So Michael, over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Justin. So, you've seen some examples, some really cool ones, I think, of the AI now coming into Workday. I love that when we change roles into different departments. Justin showed a little bit about the Copilot integration and being able to work in another tool, but still pull in, Workday data that's live, it's accurate, it's, system of record for a lot of information. The Microsoft and Workday have really taken sort of that thought and that and kind of mindset a lot further, right? So there's, a lot of it is Workday extending their platform and really making it open and extensible for these other tools and other platforms to come in. Microsoft being a great one because a lot of people just spend their day in these Microsoft tools. And, to Justin's point, it just helps the overall user experience, employee experience, not jumping around, not having to stop what they're doing to go look something up and then come back. And it really helps the IT departments of the world maintain control over what's happening and what's being built. So, the partnership and kind of the work going forward is really around the control of the platforms talking to each other, being able to have very controlled, very regulated, agents built in some of the Microsoft tools interacting with Workday, but all being monitored, all being controlled. Talked about that agent system of record. Both platforms will be aware of what's being done within these agents from a performance standpoint, from a usability standpoint, from a user standpoint, et cetera. And you have complete visibility into that whole process. Workday's adding some dashboards just to, again, make it easier to understand what's happening. It's not so much a black box with all this integration, because with the integration, the extensibility, there's going to be a lot of creativity coming, lots of ideas of, what to build, how to integrate. the example that Justin showed with the contracts kind of processing and management on the Workday side, I can envision, that whole process starts actually in Outlook. You're going to receive a contract, a signed contract, as an email attachment. Traditional process is you save it, you then upload it into another tool. With this extensibility and these integrations, you'll be able to, seamlessly just say, oh, I have a new contract. It can automatically send it to Workday, agent to agent communication, perhaps eliminating, a lot of manual steps and errors potentially while monitoring all that whole process on both sides. So great future, I think, for both platforms and really end users as a result. So like I said, benefits overall are, end users, I think, get a great boost in productivity. Not always positive themes, or implications and just things to consider. Overall, the future is stronger. AI is not meant to be scary. It's not meant to replace people or roles. It's really there to supplement both people and processes so that they can be more efficient and get work done in a faster, better way. Workday adding all these tools inside of the platform, again, just reinforces their product and kind of the leadership of the tool itself. The action portion is, again, just helping get things done faster because people have too many things to do. It just makes things easier, right? The tighter integration means you can create things faster. AI is, I like to say, there's very easy cost to entry, low cost entry with a lot of these tools, right? It's easy to start trying things. This makes it even better with that cross-platform, kind of that enterprise integration and tool sets. Again, idea to working very quickly. Being able to monitor on both sides and trust that, this agent talking to this agent from one platform to another is doing what it's supposed to do, especially with data in Workday, whether it's, people data, finance data, it's, key data. You don't want that being leaked. You don't want that exposed out. You don't want any, risk of that data. Data is really a big component for sure of AI overall. And it's, something to really think through and plan about forward. Again, the future, Microsoft has a concept called the frontier firms, and those are the firms that are really going to adopt AI well and be able to survive and grow in the future. And there's sort of, some different phases where it's people with some AI, help writing prompts, running something in ChatGPT, for example, or, Copilot, helping write an email. Ultimately, that's going to drop to, human agent teams being able to complete work and can manage processes together. Ultimately human-led, agent operated, where a person may not have a team of people but a team of agents all doing different things and kind of managed by an individual. So it's blending that work together, making things easier, and iterating often on that stuff too. With these integrations, it makes it nice so that you're not locked in to any particular platform for everything, right? Workday is great for its key strengths. Adding this AI capability in product helps those that are very strong and kind of daily users of Workday. Example, I have to enter my time in Workday. I'll go, and look at some things from time to time, but I'm not it's not part of my role specifically. But I do need access to that stuff. If I don't have to go somewhere else to look up, I can do it within my flow of work. I can do it in a different type of tool, whether it's Teams, etc. Just makes it easy for me, which also helps my organization with purchasing tools and platforms. Being able to integrate and associate data across, it helps everyone. So mentioned data before. Some of the other things to just think about around, AI. There's risk, there's some challenges. Nothing that should prevent you from digging in and getting started, but just, again, things to consider. You always want to confirm output and results, right? There's can be issues with accuracy, bias, depending on what you're having the AI do. A lot of times in content generation or analysis, you want to make sure that you're being very strict with your validation rules and confirmation that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And that's not a one-time thing. It's constant. And that goes to governance programs, ownership of agents. Like we used to have owners of applications, owners of agents are going to be, a common thing very soon, that you want to make sure everybody's on top of the accuracy, the bias, there is no bias, etc. User adoption and trust is a huge area for AI overall and specific products. People may not know how to use it. They may be afraid to use it. They don't trust it. Lots of potential challenge there, but having a structured and measured, adoption program makes it significantly easier to implement AI tools and AI platforms and help users understand how it can help them. It's not just a tool that they can be given. They have to be shown how these tools can help and how they can be benefited from them. Talked about data a little bit before. AI is only as good as the data that it can execute against or that you're feeding it. So if your data is not in good shape, if you're just giving loads and loads of data to an AI platform without maybe some structure to it, without some cleanup to it, it's only going to be as good as that. Whether you're looking at financial data, HR data, data quality, data organization is key, and that's both structured and unstructured. So documents, messages, Teams messages, etc. There's sort of ways with both sides to make sure that there's good, clean, organized processes around it, and the structure is good and ready to be accessed and kind of helped with, supplemented with AI tools. Interoperability can be difficult. That's where these partnerships make things much easier, much better overall, right? There's always technical ways to maybe integrate with certain platforms if they don't have relationships or they don't have some standard ways to do things. It's more expensive, more risk, requires more maintenance, more support. These standard partnerships help make things easier. It's more supportable. You can now get support on both Microsoft and Workday side as an example, and again, it just makes things easier to move ahead when there are these partnerships and these tools available to help with integration. Again, cost and licensing is important as well. These tools are not free. It's times they can get expensive. I think a lot of the expense can be offset if you ensure your programs are successfully, monitoring how they're being used, what they're being used for, monitor whether it's productivity improvements, time improvements, etc. There's always ways to just manage and keep that kind of cost identification in mind. Something may be worth spending a significant amount of money on if it is saving a significant amount of time, and there's ways to do that as well. Costs can increase as well with some of the cloud systems by using these new types of technology, but again, the benefits generally will outweigh the costs, assuming that you have a good structure in place to begin and kind of grow from there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on another slide. And this is it. So here at Armanino, we talk about AI and kind of AI from a platform or technology agnostic perspective, as well as, specific types of technologies like Microsoft or Workday, ChatGPT, etc. This is really meant to help organizations think about how to start and kind of grow your AI programs, your AI adoption, and your AI strategy, right? So 4 tiers to it. Starts at level 1, which is just general productivity boosting. So maybe using things like ChatGPT Enterprise or M365 Copilot. They're very prompt-based and personal productivity type tools, right? Doesn't mean they can't be powerful and super beneficial to the organization, but they're just prompt-based, user input, you're getting output. Moving up from there, it gets into, what we call level 2, where it's a little more operational, a little more context driven. So I may start to look at the AI tools in Workday, for example, those agents, those things that are just being made available in platforms like that are part of this level 2. You may be able to start creating agents yourselves that perform a very specific function. Perhaps they're completing a task, right? But they're, again, very minimal interactions with data, minimal components, moving up from that prompt base. It may take a prompt that's worked really well and standardize that across, teams or departments in something that's a little bit more structured. Now from there is where we get into AI boosted decision making. So this is taking large amounts of data, standardizing in a data platform, things like Microsoft Fabric or Azure Synapse or other kind of data aggregation environments, and then putting AI tools on top. So being able to ask questions of your data in natural language. What's been the most popular color of watch? I'm looking at my watch. So watch band that we've sold this year. How many customers do we have in California that have purchased watch bands that are red? Things like that, natural language. Users don't have to know what they're looking for ahead of time so that the analytics and the reporting can be built that way. They can just start thinking as financial analysts, somebody with business knowledge, business experience, marketing experience. It can cross any domain, but again, all natural language versus creating logic and reports against that data. Super powerful. And then level 4 are really the very complex scenarios around autonomous decision making, true end-to-end process performance through AI, whether there's human interaction or not. It's very kind of big enterprise level processes with limited human involvement. Haven't seen anyone quite yet at level 4. We're starting to see at 3. Most organizations and most of the folks that I speak with are really at level 1 still. They've used ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, et cetera, in both their personal and professional lives. Company may have given some licenses out, getting started using these things, but nothing significant quite yet. But we recommend, kind of following this path. Definitely can't start at 4 if you haven't mastered 1 yet. They do, in a sense, build on top of each other, both from a somewhat of a technical standpoint, but more from a kind of that user awareness and user knowledge. Is a very different approach to working. It's a different mindset. It's not search. It's not just looking for keywords. It's really something that becomes your kind of thought partner and assistant. So highly recommend taking it slow, quickly and slow at the same time. Small pieces, iterate often, things will fail. That's okay. But having that kind of strategy of going small to big will make it much easier.